Hi guys, and welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to talk about the white stripes and do another branding case study. I have done a couple of these before. I will link them above. If you want to see me do a branding case study on a particular artist, then let me know who it is in the comments and I will add it to my list. I am getting through my list. These do take a lot of research, but I think they're super useful to just see real life examples of what I tell you guys to do. So I basically go through what's outlined in this video and I give you real life examples, like today is the white stripes. If you are new here, hi and welcome. Please subscribe and join us. I make videos on branding, visuals, social media marketing, aimed at independent musicians on a regular basis. So if that is useful to you, then please stick around. I also have a branding course and a social media marketing campaign course for a release. So if those are useful to you, then check them out. They're linked in the description. Okay, let's dive right in. Okay, so the white stripes have a very distinct, obvious channeled brand and they're extremely consistent with it. It isn't essential that you do things this way, but it's just an example of one way of doing it and how it works exceedingly well for them. So everything about them is completely recognizable and they very, very rarely veer from that. So first of all, the music, again, very distinct sound. They use an octave pedal a lot. His voice tone is really distinct. They have this dirty drive tone, and obviously it's just guitar and drums as well, which again is it makes it stand out from, say, a regular band. There are also some really clear influences there, both musically and visually. Obviously blues, garage rock, grunge, I think. There's definitely like a theatrical element to their image. The distill stuff is a clear influence visually. Very clear influences that they take and then build on to create their own unique brand. So one of the most obvious things is their color scheme. So this is their main consistent visual element. You've heard me talk about those before. And usually I do say don't use your consistent visual elements 100% of the time because it can be overdrive. But in this case, it works really, really well and they literally run with it. They also have the repetition of the number 3, and this goes back to Jack White before even this band, and he's taken it into this band and it keeps coming up. And it's things like that that just make a really in-depth, interesting brand that is completely authentic to the artist, but for fans, they can dig a little bit more and a little bit more each time and find out, like unravel more and more layers. And that's what just makes it fascinating for the fan and for the band to really get stuck into what you love and layer it and keep going and digging deeper. So the number 3, that's where the color palette comes from, 3 colors. The number 3 comes up in his record labels, in his song titles. It's on his guitar head. He uses it as the number 3, the written word 3, and Roman numerals. So there are variations there, but the number 3 still reoccurs all the time. I've heard this comes from the fact that Jack White used to work as an upholsterer, and he stapled 3 staples into fabric to tamper it down. And 3 was like the minimum needed to hold it in place. And as far as I'm aware from documentaries and stuff, that's where it started. That was like the minimum number needed to hold things down, or that fabric down. And it went from there, and he's used it consistently since. So this becomes part of their story. And again, it's just adding layers to them as a band, and it lets you get to know them more and more each time. And that's what a great brand does. Obviously it's authentic to him, it's his story, it's his experience, it's something that he loves that he's taken further. He also linked the number 3 to the minimum number of legs on a table to make it stand, 3 primary colors in the sense of time, as in past, present, future. It just kind of added significance, I guess, for him to the number 3. They even released 3-inch records at one point. So he's really taken this number and put it into every different element within the band. And yeah, it's things like this just make things super, super interesting, fascinating for the audience. And I guess fun for the artist as well to like find these things and use the creativity outside of the music, I guess, and within the music, and see how far you can push it. Okay, so we did touch on the story there, but there was also this part of their story that was talked about whether they were married or siblings. And I think, as far as I know, they were married. and Jack White thought that a married rock duo wouldn't be taken seriously in the music industry, so he told people they were siblings. But this became like an iconic story, and it's like, are they this, are they this? And really it didn't start off that big a deal, but it became really what they're known for. And again, that story, it lets you get to know them more. It adds a layer. And once you add all these components, it just becomes this whole unique world, universe that stemmed from the music of this band. So I think their visuals are a very strong part. So I've said this before, how you have these elements of your brand. Obviously the music is always the most important, and then you've got visuals, communication, story and values. And between those four, they're going to fluctuate of importance. So some of you will be super visual heavy, some will be value heavy. The White Stripes for me are definitely visual heavy. And then I guess it would go to story. So values, I couldn't find loads. I know they were against war, and there was a controversy with an ad that they were involved in. And also they refused to be interviewed separately, which I think is just interesting. Again, I think it links to story. They just wanted to always be interviewed together. That was just something that came out. They have obviously strong personality. They know who they are. They know their authentic selves. And that's what's been able to build this brand world that is super authentic, and it's super interesting to the fans, and you can unravel more and more layers of it. But it all stems from just them knowing who they are as people and putting things in place, putting boundaries in place, putting preferences in place from the beginning. So yeah, so values isn't as strong a one for them, but they do still come through here and there. And same with communication, they were pre-social media. So there are interviews where they have talked about things related to their brand, but again, it's not a strong part of their brand for me. They were very visual heavy, very influenced in terms of imagery as well as music, and those two things have just gone together perfectly. I do get a lot of questions as well, which I'm going to touch on now, about making your music match your imagery. Obviously, when you see the imagery, you've got to have this projected idea of the music, but it doesn't have to be obvious, and super stereotypical of the music. You want to bend it a bit from that, because otherwise it's just generic and we've seen it all before. With the White Stripes, their imagery does really blend with their music, but it's not the typical. You wouldn't necessarily put that type of music with the recurring number 3 and the distill and these theatrical influences, but it does work. So it's about finding that balance between obviously mirroring your music, but also doing something unique and authentic to you and blending it all together. And it does take time. So if you are in the early stages of your brand and building it and figuring out who you are and how you're going to project yourself to the world, it is a development process. It will probably take months, if not years, to really get solid about who you are, and then it will develop over time. So don't rush it, just count the little wins along the way and the little moments where things click and you're like, yeah. But yeah, I hope this was interesting. Let me know in the comments what other artists you want me to look at. I know this is an old one now, but I just feel like it's such a good one to look at. They really channel it well, and it is completely authentic. So I hope it was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!